Starting to reassemble now. I've got the new coil. Note there's an arrow on the coil pointing that way. The motor turns clockwise. You want to make sure you don't put the coil in upside down. Use a business card, or in my case I just used the flap off the box. The Kohler box here. I also installed a new spark plug, and I've already put the fan assembly back on the engine. And now I've got the cover back on, everything routed nicely. I don't have the regulator plugged in. I do have it mounted. I really hate the way this regulator is done, and your ground is picked up through these bolts, which bolt into plastic. You only get so much pressure on them. I really dislike that. But that doesn't really explain my grounding, my high voltage situation, because when I tested it last time I had a secondary clip on it. You know, double grounded it to be sure that I was getting a ground. This extra little wire is just for my hour meter. I need to put a tie up on there. That's just a pickup for my hour meter. This is the option I added on. You can really see it there. So by the way, the cover attaches with need an 8mm socket. Bolt here, a bolt here, and a bolt here. Now with a 10mm socket, you have to remove this bolt completely, whereas these ones can just be loosened. Actually, this is an 8mm as well, I'm sorry, but these are 10s. And these can just be left loose, and you can get the cover on and off with them loose. You do have to physically remove this one though. And of course physically remove the 3. Well, you know what they say about assuming makes an ass of you and me. Since this lawnmower stopped running in a high voltage situation, too much voltage, I had assumed the only thing electrical that would stop it from running would be the ignition coil. And not having a real easy way to thoroughly test the ignition coil, I bought a new one. Turns out it probably was money, you know, probably money wasted. Oh, the old coil was looking pretty old. The old coil also toasted open on the wire pin that connects to the unit here, whereas this one does give me 1.5 meg at that terminal to the grounded housing. What I found out though is that that's not a B+, that's a shutoff. It's a spark shutoff wire. It goes to ground when you want to stop the engine. So it just grounds out the spark. It's not a hot lead. There's no 12 volts going to this coil. All the ignition comes right out of the magnetic action itself. So I probably replace that for nothing, even though, like I said, it does test a little differently than the old one. My real cause, and I realized this because I finally had to check when it wouldn't start, that I was getting spark, and I indeed was getting spark, nice good healthy spark. But even cranking the engine with the choke all the way on, I was smelling a little bit of fuel, but I should have been smelling, you know, gobs of fuel. It should have been knocking me over with how rich it smelt, you know, coming out of the exhaust. I had gas coming out of the exhaust, so I know the engine's not totally, you know, lost compression completely or something crazy. So I was thinking, well, I'm not getting fuel. You know, that exhaust should smell very rich. It doesn't really smell all that rich. It smelled a little bit like gasoline, but not that badly. So I decided to investigate other things, and looked up I saw there's a wire going to the bottom of the carburetor here. Go, well, that's probably a shutoff of some sort. I better investigate that. Yeah, and that's what it is. It's a fuel shutoff solenoid. Pushes against the jet and blocks the jet off, the carb. Unfortunately, what all the write-ups didn't tell me is that when you open this, you take this off, you're going to get all the bowl's going to come with it. The bowl didn't stay up there. I knew I'd get a trickle of gasoline, but I thought the bowl would stay up there. But this is the only thing that holds the bowl on. So the whole float bowl comes down, you know, and gasoline all over everything. And then the gasoline's draining out of the tank, which I filled full up because I was trying to make sure that I wasn't just low on gasoline at one point. So now I got a pesky full tank of gas. I ended up with a big puddle of gasoline on the floor before I got some way of stopping it, which was only to take the hose off and get it above gravity here. I couldn't pinch it well enough to make it stop flowing. So long and short of it is I did bring the solenoid into the house, tested it with 12 volts, does nothing. Solenoid is dead. Another part to go by. So my high voltage didn't fry my coil, it fried my solenoid, my fuel shutoff solenoid. This has got to be on the whole time the engine's running, because it pulls this plunger out of the way of the jet and lets the carb react normally. Otherwise it's partially blocked, mostly blocks the jet. It starves the carb. So, another part to buy. Another lesson learned.